Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. The Frondell Stewart-led government is being highly commended for the quick response it has given to disaster situations in the region. This commendation from Director General of the Barbados Red Cross, Edmund Bradshaw. Mr. Bradshaw says this recent willingness to help Caribbean countries affected by Hurricane Irma shows the maturity of government and, by extension, the country. He made the remark today as the Barbados Red Cross joined with CIBC First Caribbean, First Citizens Republic Bank and RBC in launching the Hurricane Relief Account for countries affected by Hurricane Irma.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Bradshaw says Barbados has been in the forefront of rendering assistance despite its individual challenges. As relief efforts continue across the Caribbean following the passage of Hurricane Irma, thousands of displaced people are still trying to get back to their home countries. Among them, Barbadians stranded in Tortola, some of whom were lucky enough to snag a flight home. Lorna Jones reports.
Yesterday, a group of 15 Barbadians arrived just after 4 p.m. on a British military aircraft from Tortola. The territory is just one of those left decimated following the passage of Hurricane Irma last week. Among the evacuees is Sheena Bancroft, a Barbadian who had been living and working in Tortola from earlier this year.
Oh, it is wonderful. The air is fresh. It is wonderful. I got goosebumps. The whole ordeal, I didn't cry. I had to be strong because I had 2 people with me that never experienced a storm or anything like that. I slept a total of 8 hours since last week Tuesday. A total of 8 hours. You weren't sure what was going to happen, nothing like that. You didn't know. You had every crack, every drip, every drop. You're wondering what next.
And little Dominique MacDonald, whose birthday did not go to plan.
I spent my birthday not kind of good because it didn't feel like if it was my birthday.
What spoiled your birthday?
Irma.
Right.
Irma attacked me the day Irma interfered with my birthday. The Wednesday and my birthday was the Thursday.
Couple Romeo Addison and Glenna Smith are relieved to have survived the ordeal.
The back end of the eye wall was, I don't know how many times more severe than the front end, and it lasted for hours. And then we heard really loud noises like scraping metal, breaking glass, falling cement, and so on. And when we came out, we were on the 2nd floor of our hotel. The 3rd floor was sheared off. So basically we just had a drywall ceiling above us, which is probably why we heard so much noise, because the whole floor above us got ripped off.
According to John Martin Whitney, the situation in Tortola is dire.
I actually slept in a gallery last night, or what you all would call a patio, and we was pretty much guarding so that nobody down here is very bad. A lot of people vandalizing the places, you know, people getting raped, or prisoners on the road. Is very bad down there, people.
However, the positives coming out of the nightmare experience were the camaraderie which formed among the evacuees and the assistance that was received from Tortola's residents. As for their immediate plans now that they're home,
We're going to collect our dog from the kennel, who's been there for a very long stay. And I think our immediate travel plans are put on hold, and we're just going to leave our feet on Barbados soil for a while.
A bath and a Banks beer.
2 more Barbadians and 9 other Caribbean nationals also arrived just before 6 p.m. yesterday on an RSS flight. The BDF is also organizing a shipment of supplies for the relief effort in Barbuda. Lorna Jones, CBC News.
Okay, let's just go back to that first story where the Frondell Stewart-led administration is receiving high commendations for the quick way in which it's responding to the disaster situations in the region. And of course, that commendation came from Director General of the Barbados Red Cross, Edmund Bradshaw.
The Prime Minister here, Mr. Frondell Stewart, has also activated with the regional security system an immediate response. And I think that gives Barbados a good image, that when we can respond and our military can go into those situations and help. And I want to compliment Barbados for the quick response that is being given.
And Mr. Bradshaw said that Barbados has been in the forefront of rendering assistance despite its individual challenges.
I am very pleased with the Barbados response. This thing, as in the Dominica instance, before sometimes we have responded a bit slower, but I know in Dominica the Defense Force went in very quickly and was able to do a lot of work in the Dominica situation.
CIBC First Caribbean is donating close to $500,000 to support organizations providing humanitarian relief to areas impacted by Hurricane Irma. And that's from Managing Director of CIBC First Caribbean for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Donna Wellington. She says Hurricane Irma has had a devastating impact on the islands in the Northern Caribbean, particularly the British Virgin Islands, St. Martin and Anguilla. Ms. Wellington says CIBC First Caribbean International, through its $450,000 donation, is committed to working closely with communities to recover and rebuild.
We are shipping much needed emergency supplies such as bottled water, hygiene kits, and plywood to help people get back on their feet and start the rebuilding process. Our parent company, CIBC, has also joined with us to donate a total of US $450,000 to support organizations in providing humanitarian relief to areas impacted by Hurricane Irma. The funds, which include a significant contribution through our First Caribbean Comtrust Foundation, will be distributed through the Red Cross, local Red Crosses, and other local relief agencies.
Branch Manager at First Citizens Broad Street, Ryan Hunt, expressed satisfaction in partnering with the Barbados Red Cross in its appeal fund. He noted they will do whatever they can to assist in helping those dislocated by the hurricane.
The relief operation will facilitate victims in the rebuilding process by assisting people who have lost their lives and belongings to ensure that they have the necessary financial resources to navigate the coming difficult weeks. The hurricane situation is still unfolding and developing as we're beginning to see things grow significantly day by day. And the International Red Cross is assessing all developments and will respond accordingly. In the past, First Citizens Bank has worked with the Red Cross to establish an account where donations can be made, and this time it's not going to be any different.
In the wake of Tuesday's house fire, where a St. Michael father lost everything, a government senator is advising more Barbadians to insure their homes. Senator Dr. David Durant, who's also chairman of the National Assistance Board, says this will allow homeowners to have a chance to rebuild more quickly in the unfortunate event of a fire or natural disaster.
So we'll continue to encourage homeowners, to make sure they insure their properties, especially when it comes to a catastrophe, whether it be a flood, hurricane damage, or fire, whatever, to make sure the properties are covered.
Minister of Social Care Steve Blackett wants more studies on poverty in Barbados. Noting that up until last year, only 2 extensive studies were done, Minister Blackett suggested others will guide policy making and assist national development.
It is of paramount importance that the conduct of surveys on poverty becomes a more regular occurrence. This will reduce the gaps in data available on poverty and living conditions. I think we can all appreciate that the only way to effectively address a problem is to fully grasp its nature and intensity. One of the most critical components of national development is the increased availability of precise data on social indicators. This will guide the design of evidence-based policy, which reduces inequality through the expansion of human capability.
Minister Blackett made the comments during the presentation of the 2016-2017 Barbados Survey of Living Conditions, which is funded by the Inter-American Development Bank. The survey, which targeted over 2,500 householders, was the largest of its kind ever administered in Barbados. General Manager of the IDB's Caribbean Country Department, Teresa Turner-Jones, says the fundings of the study will touch a myriad of areas, including the basket of goods. She also believes the data collected will help with a better allocation of resources.
Particularly given where Barbados is and where the region is in terms of our macroeconomic situation. The importance of this data now cannot be overemphasized. It's important to know who's poor, where the inequalities lie, which neighborhoods, which kids are underperforming, which health objectives are not being met, so that policymakers can actually direct interventions directly to those communities.
A fourth person has been remanded to Dodds Prison, charged in connection with the August 7th Kadooment Day shooting incident on the Spring Garden Highway. 17-year-old Diego Rashawn Wilson of Spencer's Gap, Baxter's Road, St. Michael, appeared before Magistrate Christy Cuffey Sargent in the District A Magistrates Court yesterday. Wilson was charged with 23 counts of endangering life and 1 count of violent disorder. He's to reappear in the same court on October 11th. A St. Thomas man has been remanded to Dodds Prison on gun and ammunition charges. This after he appeared in the District D Magistrates Court before Magistrate Ian Weeks. 49-year-old Winton Pedro Lowe of Allen View, Welchman Hall, St. Thomas, was charged with unlawful possession of a firearm and 32 rounds of ammunition. According to reports, police who had a search warrant for Lowe's home found the firearm and ammunition there. He was arrested and later charged for the offenses. Lowe goes back to court on October 11th. Police are trying to determine how a 1-month-old baby died yesterday. Lawmen say the parents of the baby are 21-year-old Petra Rouse and 30-year-old Silverson Greenwich. They reportedly took the baby to a daycare and preschool around 9:15 in the morning. CBC News understands they subsequently received a call from the preschool around 20 minutes to 4 in the evening, informing them the baby appeared to be ill. Police say when the parents arrived at the preschool, they took the child, who was apparently unresponsive, and rushed him to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The child was, however, pronounced dead on arrival. Young designer Kevin Small has seen one of his dreams come true after being named Festival Designer of the Year for Crop Over 2017. And yesterday, the man behind the Fifth Element Band was presented with the grand prize of a Mazda 2 car, compliments Consolidated Finance and McInerney Quality, Inc. Mr. Small, who caused some controversy when he beat out some veterans, had words of advice for fellow young designers to always remain focused.
Things will happen, as would have happened for me as a young designer and being under the scrutiny of my peers and the public. I try to hold strong both with the encouragement of my team members and other persons looking on. So I would encourage them to know, fasten your wheel to persons that are there for you through and through, and you'll be good.
It's the first year Consolidated Finance has been involved in the festival, and Vice President of Credit, Francis Paravicino, is pleased with the response.
Certainly we are committed to the festival, Barbados' premier festival, and certainly this year it has gone over so well that it's the first that the designers are finally being rewarded in line with the musicians and other artists. So yes, it is something we would like to commit to.
Okay, we'll take a short break here and come back with more news.
There you go.
This is too big.
He wants to grow up to be a superhero.
How about that?
I just want him to grow up to be healthy, but he was falling behind on the growth curve. A normal diet alone wasn't enough, so his pediatrician recommended 2 Pediasure per day. Each bottle has 7 grams of protein and 25 essential vitamins and minerals.
Tastes good, right?
It fits now, huh? He's not just gaining weight, he's catching up.
2 Pediasure per day is clinically shown to help gain weight in just 8 weeks. Pediasure, gain on.
Do you want audience numbers? Over 140,000 people are watching Morning Barbados and the evening news. 6 out of 10 top radio personalities are found right here at the CBC. CBC delivers the audience you need.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything. especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
For more information about Al-Anon in Barbados, please call 246-257-2373.
Barbados is continuing to see significant growth in the tourism sector. CEO of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Rudy Grant, says for the first half of the year, there's been an 8% overall increase in visitor arrivals over the same period last year. Speaking at the BHTA's quarterly breakfast meeting, he encouraged stakeholders not to settle, but to continue taking steps towards improvement.
I think we said we were going to wrap up, but we do have a comment from Norman, which I think will be very
to send these people and get them to rehabilitation. What we do in crime against tourists, we are confident.
We apologize for that extract. With an expected demand for volunteers to assist in the hurricane-ravaged countries, the Caribbean credit bureaus are spearheading the establishment of a disaster relief database. It's expected to be operational in the coming days, and CCB founder Grady Clark says it will contain A-list professionals from the credit union's movement who would be able to help in the rebuilding efforts.
By us having a database of carpenters, masons, electricians, engineers, plumbers, truck drivers, backhoe operators, and so on, right? From within the credit union movement. Now, the credit union movement, again, right, represent all of the people. And among that wonderful movement of credit unions, we have so many specialized skills and resources that could really help with disaster recovery.
Mr. Clark believes governments can help the rebuilding efforts by waiving some of the fees associated with air travel to destinations hardest hit.
We would also like public support and for our governments to endorse, one, the waiving of any airport departure taxes, VAT, on any airline tickets for people that volunteer to go to disaster zone. When you look at the cost of an airline ticket and you see what the LIAT component is versus the departure taxes, the VAT, and all the other components, man, you will realize that we could send a heck of a lot more people for the same money if those fees were waived.
Barbadians can solve their own health problems with good food. Nutritionist Carla Ramsey made the point that healthy eating doesn't necessarily have to be overly expensive. She was speaking during the Men's Health Forum at the David Thompson Health and Social Services Complex.
I honestly believe if we eat well, eat the right things in the right amounts, we can do well. You don't have to necessarily go and buy things, because most people say eating healthy is expensive. Yeah, if you're going looking for gluten-free, this, that, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, it will cost you money. There you go. It will cost you money. You're paying people to make it. It will cost you money. I'll give you an example. Breadfruit is gluten-free. So what's to stop me from eating a piece of breadfruit in the morning with a piece of fish? But I will go and buy a gluten-free bread that cost me whatever it costs me now, or gluten-free biscuits, or gluten-free anything. But breadfruit, cassava, sweet potato are gluten-free.
Ms. Ramsey says consumers usually aren't educated well enough on their options.
We tell you, don't eat the bread, go and get a gluten-free bread or gluten-free biscuit, because gluten is bad for you. But we have the right things right here. We were eating them before, but all along, all of a sudden, we have no time for ourselves. We don't have any time for our health. I usually tell persons, even if you can't do it for you, do it for the next generation. Because we either got national insurance, because most of them can't work because they're ill, and something will crash. and they're going to be ill generation. They're ill. We are raising a very sick. It is the generation, this generation coming is known as the generation their parents were buried.
After the break, we'll take a look at stories making headlines across the region.
Celebrate and save this back to school with Biko. Enjoy Biko Double Delight French Vanilla 1-liter ice cream, now only $19.95 VAT inclusive. Barbados' best-selling French Vanilla ice cream for a limited time only at the unbeatable price of $19.95 VAT inclusive. This offer available from participating outlets island-wide, Biko Mobilers, and the Biko Direct Outlet on Harbor Road.
If there's a natural or man-made disaster and you have to go to an emergency shelter, leave home early, ideally during the day, and avoid flooded areas. Don't take pets, weapons, alcoholic beverages, or narcotics. In St. Michael, the Category 1 emergency shelters are Ellerslie Secondary School, George Lamon Primary, Commermere, Black Rock Seventh-day Adventist, and Dalkeith Methodist Church.
For a full list of shelters, visit www.gisbarbados.gov.bb or www.dem.gov.bb.
Watch Doctor on the Line every Wednesday on Morning Barbados with the compliments of Great Health Works, agents for Omega XL. From pregnancy and exercise.
Persons who had miscarriages in Barbados used to say they had it because they went to the standpipe and lifted a bucket of water, and next thing they lost the baby.
To the benefits of water.
Drinking enough water keeps your skin healthy, keeps reduces fatigue, improves your mood.
Join us for Doctor on the Line on Morning Barbados as we explore matters affecting you and your family. Brought to you by Great Health Works, agents for Omega XL.
Trinidad and Tobago's government has agreed to a moratorium on public sector retrenchments until December. Addressing the media following the meeting, Ansel Roger said the unions had initially left the National Tripartite Advisory Council because they were not satisfied with the way mass retrenchments were taking place in the private and public sectors within the last 2 years. As the Caribbean struggles to recover from the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, the UK government is committed to getting the British Overseas Territories the help. The government has pledged an extra $75 million of funding to help with the recovery effort, amid criticism of the UK's response to the disaster. Hundreds of military troops and police officers are already on the ground. We find out more in this report about the situation in Tortola.
On Tortola's east end, there was no hiding from Hurricane Irma's wrath.
The roof gone.
The eye of the deadly storm swept across the largest of the British Virgin Islands just over a week ago. Wicked winds consumed this once slush countryside. As Robinson Guzman describes it, it's as if a bomb went off in the middle of this Caribbean paradise.
If I look around, it's a different island. It's like a fire finished with the island. We lose the island. That's really terrible.
This is the reality for the island of Tortola and its residents. Irma destroyed infrastructure. Critical supplies like food, water, and fuel are limited.
We need international help because the island destroyed completely.
The damage only seems to worsen as we drive down the winding hillside roads into the island's capital. Crippled communications are sending residents to phone and internet businesses. Their only hope of connecting with the outside world, picking up a Wi-Fi signal. Not far from here, we found one of Guzman's neighbors facing a challenge of her own.
Need prayers. Pray for us. Pray for us.
Shamika Stevens waited hours with her son for medicine at a local hospital.
I don't know. I can't talk anymore because it's so devastating. I've never seen my country like this.
Back at Stevens' Eastside community, neighbors seem to be coming together.
We got to stay here to help the island stand up. We got to rebuild it and make it again.
Amid the rubble, there are signs of resilience and rebuilding. Though these islanders have a long way to go, they are already on the path toward restoring their paradise.
Hurricane Irma not only left a trail of death and destruction in the Leeward Islands, but is expected to affect the revenue of regional airline Liat. CEO Julie Reefer-Jones is projecting a loss of $6 million EC dollars through to the end of the year. According to her, it will take some time before there is recovery in Dutch St. Martin and Tortola in the British Virgin Islands. The carrier has restored its normal flight schedule as far as possible, but is unable to operate commercially into St. Martin and Tortola. She adds that regional travel is very dependent on the state of the economies of the region, and major weather events like Irma will always have a negative impact on growth prospects for the region as a whole. The recovery efforts in islands devastated by Hurricane Irma is continuing, and there are many lessons to be learned. One of them is sticking to strict building codes. This is according to the Executive Director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, Ronald Jackson. According to him, he has seen enough evidence to suggest that once roofs are designed and built using adequate straps and fasteners, they can stand up to certain categories of hurricanes. Mr. Jackson was speaking during a press conference at CDEMA's headquarters this afternoon, where he gave one such example.
The eye passed over Barbuda. So they got magnitude, a category 5++. And there were 4 rooftops in one area. One included a very old church. And it stayed on. So you look at the design of the roof of that church and you realize that it is in such a way that it allows the wind to go sharply over it and not to suck the roof off. We saw where buildings pretty much looked as though they were imploding, and when you look at the quality of the building, you know, the issue of whether there was steel rebars placed in them came out. It was evident that there was none.
Mr. Jackson says CDEMA has established a fund to facilitate contributions not only from individuals but also governments to those islands affected. He says they currently have an account at the CIBC First Caribbean International Bank.
For those contributing in Barbados, or Barbados dollar account is 3666589. So that's our emergency assistance fund, which we're using to facilitate our member states based on contributions, charities who may be looking for a reputable institution to facilitate their contributions. And in that regard, you are welcome to stipulate as a secondary layer a note to our email indicating if you have a preference for how these resources ought to be used. So if you want them to go to the education sector and the education sector in a particular country, we're happy to also facilitate that process on your behalf. So when making your donations or deposit, please include a note indicating that it is for the Irma relief.
St. Eustatius has welcomed evacuees from Dutch St. Martin. Windward Islands Airways International Winair executed the flights from the hurricane-ravaged Dutch territory. 59 passengers were transported on 3 flights. Passengers included senior citizens, students, children, and disabled persons. Over in St. John's, 2 new generators have been purchased for Barbuda as officials seek to restore power to the island. The electrical supplies are expected to be shipped to Antigua from the United States by this weekend. Other electrical equipment, along with transformers that will enable the restoration of an electricity supply to all of Barbuda, will follow and will be completed by early to mid-November. Barbados has overtaken the Bahamas as the highest-ranked Caribbean country on the Quality of Nationality Index. Germany's Quality of Nationality is ranked first in the world with a score of 82.7%. The global mean of the index this year was 39.32%, with Afghanistan sitting at the bottom of the index with a score of 14.6%. Barbados is ranked 52nd with a score of 43.2%. The Bahamas fell to position 55 with a score of 42.4%. Other countries on the index are Antigua and Barbuda at 56, St. Kitts and Nevis 57, Trinidad and Tobago 59, St. Lucia 64, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 65, Grenada 67, and Dominica 68. Jamaica is at position 96 and Guyana 98. Well, a glimpse into the world of sports is just ahead, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
If you are selling your car, never let a stranger test drive your car alone. This auto theft prevention tip is brought to you in association with the Royal Barbados Police Force.